So episode 4 of Agatha All Along is out, and guys, again, am loving this show so far. We're going to break down this entire episode. I'm going to give my theories as to what I think's going on with specific characters in regards to maybe Rio and Teen and who they really are. I know there's some leaks going around about who these characters could possibly be, but I'm going to save all that towards the very end. Before we get started, we have hit 2,000 subs. We're officially now on the road to 5,000. Guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video. It means so much to me. I'm so glad that we're growing a community, talking about the things we love. If you could leave a like on this video, it would be greatly appreciated. Now, let's break down this episode.
I'm Spider-Man.
So in episode 4, we're really focusing on Alice Wu and her history and kind of her trial. If we remember to the end of the last episode, we know that Mrs. Hart is now dead and she's no longer with the coven, so they need to find another green witch. Teen brings up the fact that you can't just replace somebody, and at this moment, Agatha says, sure you can, why not, why can't you? This is clearly hinting at the fact that she thinks that he is possibly the reincarnated version of her son. When watching this, I was wondering, is she trying to break through this sigil that has been placed on him? Is she trying to kind of reveal his identity as Agatha's former son? They end up having to replace Mrs. Hart, and who comes to their aid? None other than Rio Vidal herself. One of the witches asks if she is a green witch, and she replies by saying she's the green witch in a super demonic voice. So is she the original green witch? I believe so, but I think we're going to save a lot of the identity of her character for later on in the video. Throughout this episode, she acts so carefree, and she acts like she's just having fun there. She's not really enduring the trials like the other people are on the Witch's Road. At one point, Agatha even calls her a spectator, someone who shouldn't be here, but they are here, replacing Mrs. Hart as the Green Witch. They arrive at their second trial, which is themed off of a very musically inclined 70s set. Obviously, with this, we're connecting Lorna Wu, the mother of Alice Wu, and her history, walking the Witch's Road and unpacking all of the trauma that Alice is facing with her former mother. We learn that Lorna was actually trying to open the Witch's Road by singing her version, the most popular version of the Witch's Road ballad, and her fans were actually her coven. We see various guitars, we see a portrait of Lorna Wu, which is actually reflected into Alice's face, a very cool shot. And so many different shots in this episode are very 70s horror, and we'll get into more of that too. Lilia also has several more outbursts in this episode, and this is nothing new, but I have a feeling later on in the season when we get her backstory with her character, we're going to find out what all of these outbursts mean. Because as of right now, she's just saying random things like save Agatha and things like that. Meanwhile, Rio and Agatha talk in the sound booth, and Agatha says that Rio is there too early. I'm assuming she didn't expect Rio to show up and be the Green Witch. I mean, when she came out of the ground, she did the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness thing with Wanda, where her body completely contorts and breaks and reforms all of her bones. So something's clearly up with her character, and Agatha did not expect her to be the replacement. During this conversation, Rio asks Agatha why she brought Teen along the Witch's Road, and Agatha responds by saying, oh, he was just extra hands, and it really seems like she's trying to keep Rio away from Teen. Again, I think I know why. During this, Agatha tries to expose Rio to the other witches by using the microphone, turning it on, and allowing her to speak, in which Rio says, I get my bodies. Does this mean that Rio's goal is to kill all of these witches? I don't know, but that's what it sounds like here. Lilia also brings this up at the end of the episode, reminding Rio that they heard what she said. Some very creepy music starts playing out of a record player, and some people online have even reversed this record, and it actually turns out that this is a very creepy, distorted version of the Witch's Road ballad. Whoever found that is so cool. Congrats to you. Again, I want to bring up the cinematography in this episode. Everything is shot so very focused on the era that it's supposed to be set in. I really loved it. There's tons of split focuses, various zooms that really evoke the feeling of Texas Chainsaw Massacre or The Shining or movies from that era. And it really fits with the horror vibe that this whole season seems to be going off of. And I'm really enjoying it because it's reminding me again of WandaVision, having each episode set in a different era, but this taking the horror movie or horror show route is just so cool. I didn't expect to like this show nearly as much as I am, and each week I'm more and more impressed and surprised, and so glad that I'm surprised. I think it boils down to the fact that it's just intriguing. There's mystery here, there's new characters, we're learning things but getting a little breadcrumb trail so we don't find things out until the very end. But it works because now you're starting to care about these characters because you're learning more about them. They end up destroying the record player, and then the witches get a giant burn scar on their shoulder. It's revealed that Alice actually has this scar already, and this is actually the generational curse that got her mother brother that is now trying to get her and the other witches. They have to break this curse. This is the whole point of the trial. They have to remove the generational curse that was on Alice and Lorna, and to do so, they have to sing the Witch's Road ballad, but it has to be Lorna's version. In a very Fleetwood Mac-esque version, they recreate Lorna's song with her daughter singing and playing the piano. It was a beautiful music number, and it really felt like a soundtrack to a Broadway show or a play. Just the structure, the episode titles, the way it's working, I really think this could be a great Broadway show. While singing the song, they're actually visited by the very demon that they're trying to destroy, and this demon throws Teen through the sound booth, through the glass, and he gets terribly injured. They end up completing the trial by finishing the song, and again, it was so great to watch, but afterwards they have to get Teen out of there, and they are trying to save his life. Some of the witches are trying to get Agatha to stop caring for her Teen because he seems like a lost cause, but Agatha is actually showing a very, very strong emotional relationship with Teen, because we think that she believes that Teen is the reincarnated version of her son. She looks around to the witches and tells them, don't tell me he's a lost cause, and then she looks at Rio and says, don't. Again, we're gonna talk about what that means at the end of this. It's here we actually get a little bit of backstory with Jen. She used to be a midwife, kind of calling back to the vision that she had in the previous episode with the doctor guy. So maybe something happened there, we don't know yet, maybe we'll get an answer in the future episode, but she's able to revive Teen and fix his wounds. Agatha is super concerned about Teen, making sure that he wakes up, making sure that he's healed, and here we learn about the sigil that was placed that prevents him from speaking his real name. We learn that the witch who placed the sigil on Teen also forgot that they're the ones who placed the sigil. This is really interesting because it doesn't answer if Agatha did it or not, but it also opens up a whole other can of worms that makes us think, okay, is Teen Agatha's son or is he somebody else? Teen asks Agatha what really happened to your son, and she goes from this warm, supportive, kind of loving character back to her normal cold self. She doesn't want to talk about it. Around the campfire with all of the other witches, Agatha leaves Teen, joins them, and we hear Rio telling this story. She talks about how she loves somebody, how she was forced to do something that she did not want to do to them. She says, even though it was my job, and as she does this, she looks over at Agatha, making us think that there is a connection with her character and Agatha's son. Is Rio the reason that Agatha no longer has a son, where the stories about her giving up her son for the Darkhold completely false, or is there more to the story that we haven't learned yet that we're getting breadcrumbs for now? Later on in private, we see Rio and Agatha meet each other and they're almost embracing. They love each other. Right before Agatha embraces her, Rio stops her and says, that boy is not yours. This is the big kicker, the big ending to this episode, revealing that Teen is actually not Agatha's son, making us go back to our original theory that this could possibly be the reincarnated son of Wanda Maximoff, Billy, or Wiccan. Now that's the end of this episode. Guys, leave your thoughts down below of what you thought, but now we're going to go into some potential spoilers of who these characters could possibly and almost basically are confirmed to be. Spoiler warning, 3, 2, 1, let's get to it. Okay, so I don't really want to get too far into this because I don't want all of the mystery of this show to be fully exposed right off the bat, but there are suggestions and merchandise that suggest that these two characters, Rio and Billy, are named very important characters from Marvel Comics. Rio popping up in this episode is not a coincidence. Her saying that she wants her bodies is not a coincidence. Doing her job, potentially taking away Agatha's son, is not a coincidence. There's characters from Marvel Comics. I'm not going to say the name of the character, but if you look at all of the themes and how she's dressed, the original Green Witch, who's based on life and death, you know, you've got to kind of put the pieces together and think about who she really is. As far as Teen goes, I mean, we assume he's going to be getting powers later on in the season based on footage from the trailers. So is he possibly Wiccan or is he possibly Billy Maximoff? We don't know for sure, but it's looking more likely now that we have confirmation that this is not Agatha's son. Overall, I am really enjoying this show so far. I can't wait for next week's episode. I have a friend who actually worked on next week's episode, so I'm so excited. I need to read your guys' thoughts. Leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you all very soon.